welcome to another Terrain Direct video. I'm Craig, and this is another Necroplaza video, and it's currently number so many. Number 8. It's actually number 8 in the Necroplaza series. I'm going to be doing a follow-up video after this one, basically explaining what is a Necroplaza. So stay tuned for that one, which will be coming up in the next day or 2 days, as soon as it's ready to be posted online. So, where have I got to? The last time I gave you a sneak peek of the landing pad, and I've been working again on the landing pad. I've had a few issues with the actual landing pad. I tried a couple of things that I didn't like, which sort of set me back in time. So I will show you where I've got to on the actual landing pad, and I will show you a couple of the other buildings that I've been doing for the Necroplaza series, and a little explanation in the what is a Necroplaza video on what other buildings that I'm intending to build or I've already started to build, because again, I know I've said this a couple of times now, and without trying to repeat myself too much, there is going to be so many buildings to this piece of terrain. Okay, so we'll go and take a look over on the bench and go and have a little look at the landing pad and what I've actually done to it, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so this is the landing pad thus far, and what I've done to it previous to the other video. I've now painted the hazard strips all the way around. These are still very fresh looking, as they've not been weathered and diluted down to actually give them like a passage of time look. The other thing I thought I'd give you a closer look at is the actual bulkheads themselves, with the actual rivets and the wee plastic plate, which is made out of styrene, which I just cut and glued on, and then drilled small holes and actually inserted lace pins. Obviously cut down lace pins. I've still got just a little bit of cleaning up to do around these edges, because it's actually took 3 coats of primer to actually get the flatness of the black. That foam core is ridiculously hard to undercoat for some reason, whether it just being my textured paint, but the first coat actually is pretty much like trying to paint with water. So underneath, I've also textured underneath, not that you'll really see that anyway. One of my thoughts about this piece of terrain is it's a landing pad. A vehicle is going to come on here and land right on it. Structurally, if you was to put this out in real life and a vehicle landed on this, the chances are that the way that this is built at the present, it would go thump, and that would be that. So my idea now is to actually build inside here an actual support frame inside the middle, using like some cast blocks that I've actually made. I'll just show you one over here. I've actually cast these blocks. I don't know if you can see them. I'll try and get into focus. I've actually cast these blocks, and what I'm going to try to do is create a tower out of these blocks and sort of interlink them. But to make it just look a little bit more interesting than just a load of blocks stuck in the middle down the bottom here, is I'm going to put something in the middle. Again, because I can connect it with the substation with the wires, I can bring the wires in to a certain point and maybe have like 2 conduits running underneath, so it looks as if the power's entering, and I'll have some sort of power generator actually housed inside the actual tower. So with that said, that's pretty much the landing pad as much as I've done, bar the fencing, which actually took a considerable crazy amount of time to actually get right. This has been undercoated and been painted, but this will get attached to here. As I've said in a previous video, I want a walkway, so what I've done is made this into 2 sections. So the actual barrier itself will go on around here. Let's see if we can get a... Whoop, there we go. So this will go onto here. there'll be a ladder section just like this, which is another cast piece that I've created. Needs a bit of cleaning up because I only cast this last night, and the casts have actually come out really, really well. Again, that's from the resin that I did the review on. So basically the ladder will fit inside there almost seamlessly when it's done. So that's basically an emergency exit for the actual landing pad. But the main entrance to the landing pad after this is done is, if you see over here, there's going to be no barrier around this side. This is where a walkway will be attached, which will connect it to another building. My thought in this itself is I want the walkway to be disconnectable, so maybe I'm going to have to use some magnets or something like that, or some form of connecting pillar system underneath the bottom, which allows me to slot it in but to remove it, so I don't want to damage or minimize any damage to the front of the piece by placing it on and removing it. I don't want it to lay over the top, because that just, to me, that just doesn't look right. I want it to actually connect into this seamlessly and flow onto the next piece. The other thing that I actually did, which I didn't like, is I created a pattern on side here for a landing pad. My original idea was we're going to put a big L inside and markings around the outside. When I actually did this, it looked absolutely horrendous. I wasn't happy with it, so I recoated it back over and I've gone back to the drawing board. I'm now actually studying pictures of landing pads and now have some actually really good ideas, maybe sort of like an X with arrows and like little tram lines and stuff actually painted onto the base to give it a bit of a better look. Okay, so that being said, that's pretty much what I've done to the actual landing pad for now. So these are pretty much sneak peeks now at the other pieces of terrain. This is a monster, or it will be an actual monster building by the time I've finished. Some of the terrain pieces in the Necroplaza series are going to be damaged and destroyed. Some of them are going to be very fresh, so maybe if you imagine the whole scenery as like a circle, at this side, pretty much all the way around here is going to be fresh terrain that's undamaged, pretty sturdy looking, very little battle damage. But further to the back, that's probably the area that's been getting attacked the most, so that's the area that's actually crumbling, breaking down, and you can imagine the city being attacked from one side. I don't know why they would just attack it from one side. I just know that I want it to look like it's been attacked from one side. And so mainly that's the area of battle, and now they're progressing further and further in when this terrain's being used. So it's all been undercoated. Again, this was a right hazard to actually undercoat again. The textured paint that I've got now, it takes so many coats. It takes 3 coats of primer, and my airbrush has gone kaput, so I have 2 new airbrushes on order. So I'm back to painting and priming with an old paintbrush. So as you can see, I've left this part to show you exactly what it is. This is actually 2 coats of the actual primer. And as you can see, it's pretty much, you can still see all the white, but this is after 3. After 3 it's like solid black, so it just takes time. It just really does take time. I will get there eventually. So I'll give you a quick look around the building. What I've actually done here is I've actually recessed the actual parts of the foam, because this is actually foam core. I don't know if you can see this. This is actually foam core, then sheeted out with 6mm XPS foam. That allows me to carve and recess stuff into it without actually going into the back of the foam core, and it gives it a little bit more bulky appearance to the actual thickness of the building. These I actually made myself, and basically what this is DAS clay, and what I did is I rolled it out with an old rolling pin, which doesn't get used for cooking anymore. It's for my own modelling purposes only, and I rolled it out flat until I got quite a substantial square piece. I wet it down and smoothed it all off till it was completely flat, then laid a piece of 60 grit sandpaper over the top to give me like a very rough textured brick sort of effect. Then I actually just carved into it with actually this ruler, using the actual back part, and I actually just ran that across the actual das itself, and then again this way, and waited until it was completely dry, so overnight, and then peeled it off of a plastic tray that I had and just cracked them, and they all came into bricks. Then I just cut them to the required size that I wanted, and hey presto, I have a coping stone effect on my building. Very interesting, very easy to do, and I think it's going to look really, really well. So I'll show you the end elevation of this one. This is a side with multiple battle damage. There is going to be more damage done on the other side, but I've actually gone for the same sort of effect as I go for on my bases. This seems to be working really well with this XPS foam, because it is so easy to do with just with one of my sculpting tools, which is just like a pin. On the other side, again, slightly less damage on this side, but what will happen is these big crevices, when I actually use the textured grit and start painting it on, this will actually make these areas slightly smaller, because you tend to lose a little bit of the detail inside when actually using that grit, the grit textured paint that I create myself. It tends to shrink everything down just a slight. So, well, that's going to be a destroyed factory building, and we'll go over to another work in progress. This again is going to be a behemoth building. I need to try and set this out in the way that I'm going to do this. I might need to go up, because again it's that's as far as we can go. So basically we have three different size buildings. This one the largest, medium sized one, small one. And this is going to be a refinery, mining operation, or ore processing plant. I think that's what I'm going to be calling it, an ore processing plant. These are like the conveyor belt systems, still very much in their basic form, and they're going to be connected into each other. So I'm going to have one diagonal connected here to here, and then on this one again diagonal from here to here. So if I do this to this side, they're actually going to be shaped one, like 1, 2, and then 1, 3 there, just as I had them set up. So this will actually be coming up at a huge angle. If you remember, it's sort of a conveyor belt system. So this will be leaving this building, going into this building. So to give it the effect that the first part of the process happens in this part of the building, then that part of the ore gets transported over to this part of the building, and then gets transported over to this part of the building. Then I'm going to have some form of knockout conveyor or something like that. I'm still working on how I'm going to do that. And out I'm going to have like this big pile of rubble down one side where it's all spilled out from. Obviously this factory is going to be disused now, so there'll be a lot of weathering effects on it and things like that. On the top, what I'm hoping to do is actually to create an apex on the top here using corrugated cardboard to give it a corrugated roof sort of look. So hopefully I've got the idea for that, and I've also come across a video online. I can't remember who actually made the video, but it's actually showing you how to actually turn one piece of corrugated cardboard in to make it look like multiple different panels, just by a simple use of an airbrush and a straight edge piece of cardboard, and it actually looks really good from what I've seen. Okay, so that putting the buildings aside now, I'll just get my next piece. I'll stick this over to here. This is a mould that I've made up. It's still got pieces of plastic on it because I've just not long finished casting some of the resin. So basically in this mould we've got tubes. These are just extras. These are part of the city fight terrain I don't actually plan on mass producing these things at all. It was just the mold box was just so big to actually fit these structures in. These are the actual structures that I actually want. It's to stop wastage from there. I didn't really have much else that I could put in it, so I just stuck as much inside the mold box as I could, so I wasn't using as much material. So, saying that, here's what the Y structures look like when they're finished. I'm not going to actually tell you what these are as yet, but these little Y structures that I've cast, and they're still actually curing, even though they were done last night, but they're still very, very strong. These Y structures, they actually do go this way up. I'm not going to tell you what they're actually for yet. You'll see this in a further video. But basically I have a 4-inch and a 3-inch. This is for going closer to buildings and stuff like that. That'll be explained later on. And obviously this part here, that's the actual ladder, which I'm going to be using so many ladders. It was taking me about half an hour to actually make out of styrene the actual ladders. So I thought, why not? I'm going to cast these pieces anyway, so why not just whack the ladder, which there's the actual master ladder from the actual piece, and it's actually come out really well. So I dropped that one into the mould as well, so every time that I'm casting these, I'm casting this as well. So as for my resin casting, the resin casting is doing very, very well. This mould, which I made myself, obviously this is all complete custom made. These are just iron girders that I created using pieces of balsa wood, which was then sealed, and then little pinholes put inside to actually give a rivet sort of effect, and some have actually got damage on either side. It pretty much looks like the iron girders that came in the City Fights, like the City Fight terrain set. I have completely, it slipped out of my mind what it's actually called. But basically, I wanted something to look like those, and they were very easy to carve straight out of balsa wood. So I thought, what the hell, I'll stick them in there as well, and they've actually come out pretty close. So I'm quite happy with that mould. And this is actually a new silicone that I actually bought. I've always used this sort of reddish sort of silicone, and I decided I'm going to, seeing as I've been looking and I'd seen this on the same website that I got my resin from, I thought they're actually selling half a litre of RTV silicone, and it was less than £7, and with postage. And I thought, well, for £7, I might as well give it a try. For this mould in particular, it wasn't degassed. I don't know why I didn't degas it, because I do have a facility to degas. I actually have a vacuum pump and a vacuum chamber. So why the hell I didn't vacuum degas it is beyond me. Maybe because I just wanted to try the effect, because it says on the actual jar, you do not need a vacuum degassing unit to use the mould. I'll show you the back of the mould, and bubbles. Luckily, the bubbles left the actual surface of the mould. There was none actually in here. So it's right what it's saying. It doesn't really leave any bubbles in any of the actual pieces, but the bubbles do float to the top and leave you with big indentations, and you can actually feel in some parts of the mould, even where it's solid, there's actually a bubble between this layer and this layer. Just so here, for instance, it's actually very, very, but it's still a very durable mould. For the price, it's really good. I'm going to recreate this mould, this exact same mould, so I have two of them, because I've kept the masters. The only thing that actually came off was the ladder, because some of the RTV silicone managed to seep over the ladder section, so when I demoulded the actual rubber, the ladder came with it, so I need to reattach that back to the master. But this time I'm going to not be so lazy and actually stick it into the vacuum chamber to degas the silicone. So that in a nutshell is pretty much everything. We'll go back over to me talking for another minute or so. So I'll see you back over there in just a second. And here I am again. This is just a little footnote at the end of this video. You've now seen some of the other pieces of terrain. In my next video, what is a Necroplaza, I'm going to try and explain what other sorts of terrain pieces that I'm going to be doing. I'm hoping that this new lighting kit that I've actually got is actually doing more justice than what it actually looks from the LCD screen that I'm actually looking at on my video camera. The screen's not terribly great because it's just too small, but basically I'm hoping that I had a look at multiple different lighting kits and I went for something that's very extravagant, and it's huge tubes, daylight power tubes, which are quite high up on the, I can't remember if it's too high on the Kelvin scale or low on the Kelvin scale. It's something like I think it's 7,000 Kelvin or something like that. It's very light, but don't quote me on the actual that because I'm not an expert in science whatsoever. All I know is it is a daylight tube. It's quite expensive, daylight tube, but just looking at the thing, it looks a lot better quality than my previous videos that I've done, so hopefully this is going to work. And me being me, I didn't just buy one of these, I bought 3. So I've got another 2 to actually put up. This is just running with 1, but all 3 are actually erected because they come in pieces. You have to build them, and it actually does take a little bit of time to build them and put them up because you've got support legs down each side and they actually hold up on frames and So by the by, if I can get away with just using 1, yeah, all the better. So anyway, the reason why I wanted to add this footnote is because the other videos that's actually coming up on these actual pieces, I don't know what actual videos to actually make because they're taking a ton of time to actually construct. So I just wanted to sort of ask you, the viewers, what would you like to see? What would you like for me to show you? Because else the Necroplaza series is going to be like 150 videos long, and that's just far too much. It's too much for me, it's too much for you to watch, tons and tons of hours of mindless nonsense where it's basically the same technique. Maybe you just want to see like maybe another 5 more videos in total of the actual completed structures, and then in between that I'll do like little tutorials or something like that, whatever. So if you've got any ideas on what sort of videos that you would like to see through the actual Necroplaza series, if you want me to make 150 videos, I'll make 150 videos. Not 100, not practical, but I will if they're getting views. But with that said, anyway, I'm going to leave you be now, and hope you have a fantastic day. And from me, happy wargaming. Bye bye now. Take care.